Hi, my name is Tamara, and you're watching Things Even a Monkey Should Know. Hello, hello! Thank you so much for joining me again today. As you know, if you've watched some of my other videos, I'm not a professional anything except artist, but I have figured out there are a number of things around the house and out in the yard and on my cars I can do myself and often save myself time, money, and aggravation, so I hope you have saved those things now too. Today we're kind of doing a follow-up to last week, which was changing out a can light, and there are other lights that look like they might be the same kind of light, a can light, but whenever you pull them out you find out, oh, it's a flat little pancake-like light, and it has a box up in the hole, and oh my gosh, what do I do with this? Because there's electricity flowing to this and there's no obvious way to change it. So today we are going to take care of that. So we are definitely going to go over the things we're going to need today. Right now, you're going to need a ladder, step stool, something to get you elevated to where I'm assuming your light is, which is in the ceiling. You're going to need the new light. In my case, I am replacing with the same kind of light that we previously had because I want all the same types of lights on the same circuit. So if you opened up, say, your flush light in the ceiling and you discovered, oh, well, it's not an old-fashioned can that's been adapted to an LED. Instead, it looks something like this. Never fear, we can still fix it. That's what we're doing today. So this kind of light has the actual light, and then it has the controller. And the controller is what is wired directly into the electricity. So this is the way we're going. You are going to need probably a hammer and something to punch out part of the cover of that controller. Doesn't have to be a punch like this. You can use a screwdriver, you can use actually almost anything blunt, but you will need to be able to do that. You're going to need a voltage detector, and I don't know if you've noticed, but I have really been singing the praises of these things. They cost anywhere from $10 to probably however many dollars you want to spend on them, and they are well worth your investment. You don't have to get a really expensive one because all it's going to do is tell you if there's electricity present. It doesn't tell you how much. It just tells you that, hey, if you touch this wire, you can get shocked, so maybe you should shut off the breaker. Helpful, right? You may or may not need needle nose pliers and regular pliers. It's always a good idea to have them whenever you are working with electrical stuff. And also, we may or may not need wire strippers. I'm really not sure what I'm going to find up there behind that light that is currently up there. So I'm just trying to be prepared. I think that's all we're going to need. I know, every single time I do an electrical video, we always come to the breaker box and turn off the breaker, but you know what? I'm not gonna stop, because if you don't do that step, you could get seriously injured or maybe even fry yourself. Nobody wants to be fried chicken. So, breaker off, number 10, let's go. Now, I should have mentioned that you might also need a flashlight because it is significantly darker in here with the lights off, but you know, here we go. So these particular types of lights, they can snap your fingers really easily. So whenever you are taking them out of where they are stuck, the hole that they are stuck in, you should be very careful so that your fingers don't get snapped. And what I found whenever I have had to deal with these is I like to take some needle nose pliers. Whew, gross. And grab them and get their little, grab their little clip and go ahead and spring it on one side just so that I don't get my little fingers stuck in there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to unscrew the light from this so that I can not have to deal with that heavy thing hanging on the end of this box. And hey, guess what? So these boxes actually hinge open. See that? Ugh. And then we find our mess of wires inside. Now, this would be, even before this, would be a great time to turn on your voltage detector. Run it along that wire. I know the lights are out in here, but I still just like to know for sure that, hey, there is no electricity in here whatsoever. Yay. So we are pretty lucky that it looks like we have pretty much the exact same setup as the box that just came. So we have these, what are these called? Wago clips, I think, which are this awesome new little contraption that is being used now instead of wire nuts. I just learned about them. Pretty cool. So we're going to pull out our wires. You definitely do need the needle nose pliers for this. So there goes my white wire. So let's pull out the neutral, the ground wire. That is not the neutral. I just pulled out the neutral. And then let's pull out the hot. And make sure that you're pulling out, obviously, the wires that go to your main electrical cable, because if you pull out the ones that go to this box, well, obviously that is not going to do you any good. So I got these pulled out, and then we're going to go ahead and remove this cable from the back of this box. I'm going to have a huge mess of insulation to clean up later, which is just wonderful. Let's be sure that we keep it separate, which were the old pieces and which are the new ones, because I don't know what went wrong with this light. If it was the light or the switch box, yes, I could test it and try to find out which, and I probably will. Now, we're going to go ahead and knock out the end of this. Just knock out the little plug. First, I'm going to open it up and just make sure that my wires are far away from that so that I don't accidentally damage them. And then I'm going to just gently tap that on all sides, both sides, two sides. Oops. Don't break your countertop while you're doing this. And then we're going to pry at it a little bit. I'm going to tap it again. Here we go, it's starting to come. And then I'm going to grab it, just go ahead and finish pulling it out with the pliers. It shouldn't actually be very difficult to do, and for some reason this one is. Well, it's always good whenever, twist it, there we go. It's always good whenever I have a little bit of difficulty doing something so that you guys can see. That was just my voltage detector turning off, so that you guys can see somebody having not the easiest time. Now, I had a little piece, here we go. This is like a little boot, more or less, that kind of helps the cable stay in place. It was on the old box. The new one didn't come with one, so I just snaked it off the old one and we're putting it onto the new one. So now we get to go and just shove our wires into these little connectors. All right, guess what? We are at the point where we are going to reconnect all of these wires, and if you got them a little curly like I did whenever you were removing them, now is a good time to just go ahead and straighten them out. Ooh, I love insulation in my face, don't you? All right, and now we're going to go ahead and thread this wire through this little boot looking thing. And we're going to go ahead and make sure that we thread it through until we have the white insulation coming through on the inside. Now, guess what we get to do? We get to use these fun little connectors. I'm telling y'all, these are probably my new favorite thing that I've learned about, and I'm sure lots of you already knew about them, but I didn't, so this is super exciting. And you just shove your wire in there, and it's in there, and now they're connected, and there's no wire nutting and no taping. So neutral wire, white wire to white wire, hot wire to hot wire, ground wire into ground wire, and that should be all that we have to do. So we are going to gently curl and tuck all of these delicious little wires into this box. We're going to shut the box. It'll snap shut, or it should. Yep. And then we are going to go ahead and screw on our light so that we can determine, whenever we turn the breaker on, we can determine if it works. Time to flip our breaker back on and go check our work. The moment of truth. Look at that, it came on. Now, since this is one of those things that has multiple light temperatures, you can choose which temperature you want. That's all the way over to cool, which it is kind of cool that it has that, but this one started changing its own color, it started changing its color of its own accord, which I wasn't real crazy about. So I do like that we can set the color ourselves. The last thing that we need to do is we need to go ahead and install this back up in the hole. Does this look like code to you? Yeah, not to me either, but it was installed by a licensed electrician, so we're gonna go with the assumption that they did it correctly. You wanna make sure that you have these little tabs folded back. They are pretty stiff, which is good because you need them to hold your light up in the hole up here. And then you are just going to stuff them up there. You may have to walk it up a little bit because they, at least on mine, they're catching on the wood around the edges. There's one side, there we go. And then it holds it up there beautifully. And we're done. Now, wasn't that deliciously easy? Yes, Tamara, yes it was. Now, always remember, if you're not comfortable working with electricity, hire someone to do it. But if you are comfortable working with it, but you just think that this might be too complicated, you just saw how not complicated it was. And in fact, let's say that you have some older lights that you are wishing to replace. You now know how this particular type of light installs. You don't have to, if you want flush lighting, you don't have to do can lights. You can do these nifty little pancake type lights that just suck right up in there. And you can get them, mine are 6 inches. They come in 4, 6, and 8, I think. So just so you have all of that info, it's kind of helpful, right? Thank you so much for joining me today. If you haven't subscribed already, please go ahead and do that now. And thank you very much to everybody who has already subscribed. I hope you have a wonderful week. Be safe, be well, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.